Thank the Force. We are live on a Thursday night once again. Thank the Force. What Admiral Akbar would always say to me in the EA Battlefront 1 that came out in like 2015, whenever a pod would drop and I would successfully survive another wave of Imperial troops, except one of those times when Admiral Akbar said, thank the Force, guys. He dropped the pod right on my head and killed me when I was just standing there sniping stormtroopers, and I died.
That's some Helldiver stuff right there.
Some serious, wanted to get Admiral Akbar down there and give him a piece of my mind there. But here we are, Thursday night once again. Only a little bit of stuff happened this week in the Star Wars universe, so not exactly like we have a lot to talk about, because I'm telling you guys right now, it's early on. We've got 27 people in here right now, but I'm telling you right now, I have a rant to go on today. I am ready to sound off on the universe. I'm excited for today. I'm excited for tonight's show. I've been fired up for about 48 hours now, just revving my engines up for Thursday night. We have Brian fresh off his Ghostbusters day off of work for the Ghostbusters.
I think the whole day.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Pull the day off. We have Nate over there hiding secret information from books that he's not allowed to talk about yet. But maybe if we get enough Mountain Dews into Nate, he'll be so charged up that he's ready to go for. There's Mountain Dew number 1. If we can get Mountain Dew number 6 or 7, he might just start going on a rant, and it's something like, "Oh yeah, this happens in Living Force," and it's like, yes.
If he does let it slip, just be like, I'll edit it out later. You're fine. Don't worry about it. Just keep going.
I don't think anyone from Penguin Random House watches this show, so we might be able to get away with it.
There's one person from Penguin Random House. Every time they send the proof, it's like their job to watch the different people. Like, are they doing something? And they this is the worst hour of my week. I have to get on here from Newsnet Live to see if they say one word about Living Force this
when they
week.
Know that every single time we talk about their books, it's always overly positive. The horror of talking positively about one of their books before we can. So
see, they keep doing such a great job. It's fantastic. I will say the Star Wars publishing world has been rich over the last couple of years. Very rich. And I just want to get a vibe. Like, what is the vibes going into tonight? Brian, I'll start with you, because I will say my vibes are extremely high with just a tinge of ready to burn the world down. I think that's where I'm at right now.
Want to watch the world
where are you
burn?
at? Yes,
no, I'm ready to go. I can't wait to hear this rant too, because I know what the rant's going to be about. Tyler kind of let me in on it. We actually, for those of you who don't know, we actually just got done recording next week's episode of the Timeline Show, where we're going to be going through the entire Battle of Jeddah, the entire crossover event thing. And while we were talking, before we started recording that, he kind of let me in on what the rant's going to be. So I'm ready I can't wait for you guys to hear this. And I, honestly, Tyler, I am on your side with it. I'm totally with you on it. I can't wait.
That's what I love. I actually am kind of sad that this isn't even rant related, but so Bad Batch happened, and Jay made a prediction that it wasn't like exactly how he thought, but he was kind of on the right track. I was here ready to give Jay his flowers, and then he's not here, but maybe it's because he thought he was going to kill off another major character, and we're going to have to stop that. But Nate, where are your vibes tonight? Like, in a scale of Mountain Dew supercharged being like a 10 to like, I haven't had my Mountain Dew fix in a week. Where are we?
We're getting on the road to supercharged. We're getting on the road to being supercharged. I'm not as high as some people on the vibes, but I'm excited to talk about some Star Wars and get into it, and also hear this rant, even though I kind of know where it's going. For sure. I know nothing. I mean, I live on Twitter, and the discourse there the last few days has been.
Oh boy. I cannot wait.
But ugly,
we have a lot of stuff to get into before then. So we have like 5 little quick hitters for us today. I wanted to start though. This one's like more of a somber note. We just tweeted out that we heard the news that the casting director for A New Hope, Diane Crittenden, passed very recently. I didn't read much about it. I don't know if that happened like last night or just during the day today. That's pretty much all that I saw. But talk about a legacy, being someone in charge and an integral piece of the puzzle, and figuring out who's going to play Luke, Han, and Leia for, Star Wars. And while, casting directors don't really get a lot of love, in in a lot of the process when we talk about filmmaking, but talk about maybe the most important job that there could be in a film. Like if they could be perfect directing, there could be perfect editing, but if you don't have a cast that meshes well together, then it's gonna really fall apart. And she saw something clearly in Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher to create a trio that honestly is going to live on forever in a way that no one could have even maybe expected back then. But I just not really asking for your thoughts on all of this, but I'm just curious, like, what do you think that would be like just to have that legacy like that, and looking back on what her legacy to Star Wars is? Just a couple of brief thoughts here.
I to be that person that put a face to a name for one of the most iconic franchises of all time, this like pulp culture phenomenon that just came out of nowhere. I think that's something really cool that you can take to your grave, that's a huge flex, just like,
Right.
oh, well, I, put the faces with Han, Luke, and Leia, so I mean, that's so cool, and that's such a cool legacy to leave behind.
Yes. What about that's so true. I mean, that it's the ultimate flex, honestly.
It
really is. Nate, just a few words.
Yeah, I mean, I said to echo what you guys said, and I just pulled up some of her other credits, like Pretty Woman, Thin Red Line, Golden Pond, Witness, Badlands, Spider-Man 2, so many. She's just a great resume and a legacy that she leaves behind. And like, yeah,
A
we
titan
don't
of the industry.
right. We don't give enough credit to some of the people that are behind the scenes on really anything that we love. And yeah, casting is one of those big things that you don't even think about all the time. And I tweeted it out, and I didn't. I tweeted it out on a memorial for her, and I added on a piece from Empire for a few years back when she sat down with them to talk. Over 3,000 people auditioned for those roles.
Wow.
That is absolutely insane. And yeah, like it
somehow
takes
you
talent.
filtered out and picked out the perfect trio.
Yeah.
And like and there's a quote here, and it's kind of funny to imagine now. And I'll read this word verbatim from her and this piece from Empire. But she said, there were some people I really liked who didn't get roles. I liked Nick Nolte for Luke. So imagine Nick Nolte for Luke Skywalker real quickly. So that'd be funny. And now that he actually did get cast later on for The Mandalorian. And I remember in particular Dennis Dugan, who is now a director, had the quintessential farmer look that George was talking about. And she said that she didn't remember much of Mark Hamill. It's just all these different things and fun things. And she talks about Carrie. And she was in love with Carrie and her quirky attitude and personality. And it's just, like it's something, it had been such a hard job, and casting is so hard. It's so hard to find the right people, because like a movie can't work without the right people in the right places. And
so our thoughts and prayers are obviously going out to like her family during this time. And again, like, I think Manslayer just said this. She's passed in the history, immortal in the eyes of Star Wars fans and many others. So thank you so much. So moving on, talking about Star Wars now, 50 years, nearly 50 years, like after, we're getting close to that 50-year mark, where it's 50 years after Diane Crittenden cast the original trio. We're still here talking about Star Wars. So it's pretty incredible to think about her legacy as we continue on with the show tonight. And speaking of A New Hope, I have to ask, they're doing a saga film marathon in May, on May the 4th. The Skywalker saga in theaters celebrate all 9 films in theaters May the 4th. What are the chances that I will be seeing you guys pull up at AMC theaters for this one? Any chance at all? Brian, any chance at all?
Nope.
So you hate Star Wars?
No, it's not. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I can't stand it. I know. How many times? I mean, can you? Once in a while.
They did it for episode 7, and they did it before episode 9.
It's like, how many times can you just milk this cow for every penny you can get out of it?
Why not?
Why not? I know, and it's a business answer. But like, how many times? Like, I just know I can say
every franchise ever does it. I mean, Lord of the Rings does it.
That's true.
My theater right now is rerunning all the Harry Potters.
My birthday
last
year, I went to Return of the King in theaters.
Yeah, it's not just Star Wars that does this. It's every single franchise.
But it seems like every year they're finding a reason to do this like marathon thing, and it's like,
okay, I don't think
I can watch them in my underwear.
This hasn't happened since 2019. Like this hasn't happened since 2019.
I know.
Like
no,
I go for like they do like the little anniversaries. Like they did Return of the Jedi last year for like the anniversary. And I do
Phantom
love
Menace
the anniversary
year.
ones.
Yeah.
Phantom Menace this year. Any chance I can get to see the originals on the big screen, I try to take it. Nate, any chance you'll be in going for a saga film marathon?
All 9, no. I unfortunately have asked off for too much vacation time between April and May that I can't justify anymore. But I will be going to the Phantom Menace for sure because of the Acolyte that we're probably going to be talking about here in a second. But yeah, unfortunately, I can't. I was talking to people on Twitter. If they do, if my theater has individualized showings where I can pick and choose, I will certainly be trying to go to as many as possible. So, I mean, I can't do all 9 because of my work schedule, but yeah.
Thank you, Yusuf. Can't wait to see all 9 movies on May the 4th. Maybe I'll see you there at the Orlando AMC. We'll see about that one. But I will say, so I have to say this. I have to find I just have to find one person that will actually be willing to do this. I asked my one buddy who's a super Star Wars nerd. He's like, I'm actually going to be in the UK that weekend, or I would totally be down. So now I have to start thinking, who can I bribe like into going with me? Because I am the degenerate that will sit in a theater all day long and watch these movies.
I would too if I could, but
I'm trying to figure out, like, I don't necessarily want to do that by myself. I probably will, but like, I don't necessarily want to, like, I don't want to be that level, but I probably will.
By yourself would be tough. That would be really tough.
That's when I have to make friends with all the other nerds.
I love going to the theater by myself.
Dangerous.
That's how I do it. But going to see 9 movies back to back.
I love going to the movie by myself. Going with by myself to this would be like, now I am forcing myself into a situation where I have to become friends with someone, and then I'm worried that one of them will say something like about The Last Jedi that I won't like, and suddenly, you know, everyone has drawn their lightsabers and has started a civil war inside the theater. Like, I would hate to be the cause of that, but it's certainly a possibility. Are you, with any chance, Brian, you said no chance on seeing the Phantom Menace 2 in theaters, right? Or did you say you were?
No, I don't know about the Phantom Menace yet.
Oh, you're 50-50 right now.
See, I kind of want to. So I kind of want to, because
there's the Acolyte stuff. I don't know if you saw, but they have they have an Acolyte trailer that's gonna be in there. He said, "Let us watch together in a call."
I remember
with your earbuds in. Star Wars
News
live from the theater. I will do a 24-hour live stream.
I mean, there's some. I mean, if there's like an overnight type of way that I can do that, like, and like those degenerate hours of like 2 a.m. through a.m.
You'll
like
be watching me
stream
fall
from the
asleep.
theater.
You'll watch me fall asleep during
just throw a
Attack
party
of
in your theater,
so I can rev up for 3 and 4.
There you go. See, and that's so. I remember,
what about Phantom Menace? But like, what about Phantom Menace?
I might, but I
the
remember,
Acolyte's gonna go.
I remember when I was a kid, we went and paid tickets to get into 101 Dalmatians just to watch the trailer for one of the Star Wars movies, and then we got up and walked out. So
101.
I mean, it's back in the day. So maybe I'd sit down and watch the Acolyte thing. I don't know. They're gonna release that same Acolyte thing online like a week later. So I don't know. I've fallen asleep during Phantom Menace every time I've seen it in theaters. And
but this
so
is the time.
I don't
is
I can't
pod
justify
racing,
paying
Brian.
$20 to go sit in a chair and take a nap when I can do that at home.
Fair enough. I will be there. I will be there for that. I'll probably end up doing, and this is gonna look bad. People are gonna judge me for saying this. I will probably go see the Phantom Menace and then still do the marathon, but just skip like the Phantom Menace for that, and like go in like 2 hours later for Attack of the Clones is probably what I'll do.
Well, the
depending
Acolyte
on what
stuff
time
is
this
after
starts.
Phantom Menace.
No, I mean, like, I'll go see the Phantom Menace screening just the Phantom Menace, and just so I can get the Acolyte, and then do the marathon like the next day, and then just not show up to the marathon for like 2.5 hours after the Phantom Menace is over.
Got you.
So Nate, you're doing Phantom Menace though, so you can see Acolyte stuff,
for sure.
right?
For sure. That's a guarantee no matter what. Depending on what my theater does, I will I am hoping to see more, but we'll see.
So I have to say this too. Brian and I, we have been on this train for a long time. And I think one of our resolutions for Star Wars this year, if you go back and watch the Star Wars Newsnet resolutions, okay, I came up with 3 resolutions and we debated them during the show.
We did.
And number 1 on that was Star Wars is going to take a step up in marketing their material. And sure enough, I feel like we have had a jam-packed 3 months of Star Wars marketing train. Like, we're getting the Acolyte trailer, 3 months before the show here. And they're announcing now the action figures for these characters that we have just gotten little snippets of, and you can pre-order those along with the release of the show. There's clearly going to be another trailer for Phantom Menace. We could get little snippets before then. There is a lot of marketing going on for the show that I'm really excited for. And obviously, they did a good job with some of the Bad Batch. I mean, when was the last time have we ever, since I remember they did this for Rise of Skywalker when they announced the trailer was coming the next day. Have they done that for any live action show where they drop a poster for it and say, "Hey, the trailer's coming tomorrow"? I don't think they have for any of these shows, but correct me if I'm wrong here.
I'm sure they have. I have to go
I don't
back.
think so.
But I mean, they don't just secretly drop some of these trailers. Sometimes they have, but they've certainly announced trailers before. They've announced the Mandalorian trailers.
Well, some of them have been at celebrations. They've dropped them, or
I remember
that.
They announced the Mandalorian trailers beforehand, the season 3 trailer during Monday Night Football. They announced that, and I'm pretty sure they might have for Obi-Wan as well. I mean,
I really don't remember that.
Yeah, I know they haven't done cold drops on all these trailers because, I mean, I know they've drummed up some hype here and there, but it's not every time.
I was so shocked when I got a tweet from Star Wars saying tomorrow, and it's just this really cool poster of the lightsaber going red and with the black drop or the gray drop back, and I thought that was fantastic. The poster was
better
sick.
than the trailer.
We're gonna get into it.
No,
we're gonna get into it. I have a lot to say about this. I'm ready for it. I hear the discourse on the trailer. I'm not against you on some of that at all. It's more of the discourse around other things that drove me crazy.
I like the trailer. It's just it could have been
what did we think for so I don't know if you guys have been, I shared one video with you, and I don't know if those of you watching, if you're aware of the light up of the Empire State Building that they're doing and everything that's going around on Twitter has been really cool. And so they have what they're calling the Imperial March to May, which is this big promo they're doing with all of these different releases over the next several weeks leading up to May the 4th. And we have everything from Balin Skull action figures to High Republic downloadable posters for the villains. There's this little Darth Vader robot thing that you can buy.
Did you see the blue milk?
You can get a jug. Okay, so I kid you not. My sister is obsessed with blue milk. Every time she wants me to somehow get blue milk for her from Disney. And I'm like, sis, I can't just go to Disney all the time and buy you blue milk and somehow ship that to you. No. And now I sent her the link, and it's the next day she's like, yeah, I'm like, blue milk is actually, you can buy it. And she's losing her mind over the blue milk.
I'm screen sharing the tab if you want to pull it up so people can see if they haven't.
Yes. True move, blue milk. You can buy it. Chug it. How are we feeling about that? Brian, you gonna go buy some blue milk?
Oh my god.
I am 100% buying blue milk.
Oh my
Nate's gonna take it to work and share it with everyone at work?
Yeah, probably not sharing it, but I'll
blue milk party.
Move.
What else do we got here?
You've got to be
got a
kidding
watch.
Me. I'd wear that.
Got a weird little.
Where's the Vader robot?
Where's
the Vader robot?
I
believe it's towards the top. Let's see.
For those of you who
Go
watch
back
this
up.
later, just know a
That
classic.
one?
There's a class that it reminds me of those classic
Imagine X?
punching robot things from you would
that
see
it?
back in the
Rock'em
day.
Sock'em.
Yeah, the Rock'em Sock'em.
There's
the Balin
Balin.
Skull. The
These
Grievous
figures are
action
awesome.
Figure.
These figures are awesome. That Thrawn. Oh, and
Yeah, that
the
looks sick.
and the Issa Lamari. And I believe that's the concept art for Grievous back in the day.
I think it is, yeah.
Which is very cool.
I love
There's Star Wars icons. There's
Where's
whatever.
the Naboo starfighter? There was
Bongo,
one
of
with
all
the
things.
N1 starfighter, like the N1 starfighter. It was like
whatever
a
the hell
bucket
that
almost or something. I don't remember for
is.
sure.
Lightsaber,
Darth
Lightsaber,
hat,
Give me
poster,
the N1.
sweatshirts.
Where is the
Those.
N1?
I don't know, man.
Keep going.
There's-
It's
I'm
there. I
going.
promised you it's there.
More comics. I can't wait for that Vader's Castle release.
Imperial March.
Toys.
Oh
I
my
think
goodness. Toys. There it is.
there.
A new N1 starfighter. I'm all about the N1 starfighter. Give me as many N1 starfighters as you have.
Very cool. Let's see. What
So
else
we
we
do
got
have
here?
a comment here of
Posters.
asking us what our thoughts are
That's
before we
all.
get into the Acolyte trailer. Thoughts on Lucas's recent statements in favor of Iger and Disney, effects on the fandom going forward. Brian, did you get a chance to see those?
The only thing I saw was that he was siding with Iger and saying that you don't leave making magic up to amateurs is kind of what I was seeing.
Okay.
Do
you think this has any effect on the fandom going forward,
It
or
shouldn't,
not
but
really?
it
I
is.
don't think
It shouldn't, but it
It
is.
shouldn't. No, I agree with Nate.
He is the biggest stakeholder of Disney. What do you expect him to do?
He's not going to
light it on
he's
fire.
not gonna,
Nate.
yeah, he
one of the
even
biggest
though he doesn't.
clickbait people on YouTube, geeks and gamers. If you're watching, I'm sorry, but you're trash. They are even on the side of this. It's like, what is Iger and Lucas supposed to say?
Yeah, because even though it's Lucas's baby and somebody else is nourishing it now, it's still his baby. He's not gonna want to see his baby go down in flames no matter who owns it.
Unless maybe he does.
It's the same thing. Like, I don't get excited. Like, everybody thinks it's news when they're like, "Oh, Daisy Ridley says the script for the new Jedi Order movie is great." Well, of course she's going to say that.
So
Like,
there
no
was
kidding. Like,
there was
that's
a
not
tweet.
news at all.
I put something out there. This was like several months ago. Like, I don't know how familiar you guys are with like the Rocky movies and Creed and everything. And they dropped something for Creed 4, and they said, we decided like to move forward because we have a great story in place and it's gonna be like the best one yet. And I'm like, for once, I want like a movie franchise. Like Fast and Furious seems like the perfect franchise to do this. We're like, we're gonna make Fast and Furious 11. The story is terrible. We have no real direction, but you know what? We're just gonna go for it. Like, that would be amazing.
We're
Like, I would
going to another
love that.
dimension this time.
Like, I would just love it if someone came out and said, we don't really have a very good story, but it might look cool, so maybe you should stop on by. Which is because you're right. It's like, oh, this is the best script that you'll ever see in your entire life. Oh, yes. Well, of course you're gonna say that. Like, what are you gonna say? No. Last thing before we dive into the world, let's talk briefly about the Bad Batch episode, because we're gonna get into the Acolyte today, but briefly about the Bad Batch episode. Nate, what did you think of Finnick, teaming up, I guess in a sense, teaming up with Hunter and Wrecker to go after I don't even remember the name of like the person they're going after, some assassin guy that was basically like a giant praying mantis.
It was some S something. I don't know. I don't know.
Did you? So we discussed this in the chat of how it was like another one of the kind of the same story beats we've seen for a while, and it can be. I think we're seeing a little bit of fatigue from some people on this. Granted, it does mix in some good, character moments with people. But what were your just general thoughts on the episode and what direction we're heading before we talk about the Acolyte?
Yeah, I mean, it's another Bad Batch formula episode. Mission of the week, and they're fine. They're always fine. They're never bad. They're never bad times. It's a good way to spend 20, 25 minutes. I mean, you're not going to hate your life watching it, but
well, I hope not.
I don't know. It didn't do much for me on that side of it. I've just been loving the stuff with Crosshair this season so much. So every time we get a moment with him, it's grand. And this 100%. Episode and this episode did a little bit more with that, with his shaky hand and his lost confidence. And I cannot wait for him to regain his former self. That's going to be a hoot and holler, shout to the heavens, 3 a.m. moments for me when I can actually stay awake during an episode of the Bad Batch when they drop on Disney Plus, because I never can, but I cannot wait for that moment. And they're really building to it well. So that's my one takeaway from the episode.
Right.
All the Fennec Shan stuff, Yeah.
The Fennec Sham was fine. I would say, and the comment right here, this is the way. Thank you, appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in this week. We love talking Star Wars here every Thursday. It says Ventress sighting will be soon.
She's
That's who she's
very
talking
soon.
to, right?
I would
think
imagine
that's who she's talking to.
I don't know who else it would be because it's not Cad Bane. It's not Cad Bane. It can't. Yeah. So
I'm assuming she's talking to Ventress, and that's how it's gonna set up, like how she enters.
Maybe even next week or the week after.
I think it's next week. It's gonna be. They can't waste any more. Not that they're wasting time, but they can't waste time in getting her in there if they're gonna keep building on other stuff, because there's only like 6
because you
episodes
can't save her
here
for the finale because that takes away from the actual main core of everything. So you
Well,
gotta.
it has to be soon.
Yep. And I'm very looking forward to that. But
I did love the part with Crosshair where Omega and him are just continue to build their relationship, and she's getting him to meditate and try to heal himself. We get into like some of this mental health side of Star Wars that honestly isn't explored that much in Star Wars in terms of a lot of some of the stuff we're seeing on animation, live action. And so that was kind of a blessing to see that explored. And then Omega, when she goes, "You're not gonna," she's like, "You're gonna try this, right?" And he goes, "I'm gonna hate this, aren't I?" And she's like, "You don't like anything though." And he's like, "Yeah, you're right. I don't really like anything. So let's go do it." And so that was really fun. I love the Crosshair stuff with you, Nate. Brian, I'm gonna call you out here to the world. And Brian hasn't seen the episode yet of Bad Batch. He was okay with us talking about it because I told him
it's not an episode you have to rush out to see.
Right. Yes, I told him it was a crazy one.
I was
Brian,
counting down.
How
for something
excited are
different.
you now? How excited are you now to watch another 7 out of 10?
Yeah, bring it on. If it gets me to the second half of the season,
you're never going to have a bad time watching.
And I like how Nate described it. The mission of the week. I like that.
They're always fine. It's fun. I mean, Fennec Shand is an awesome character. So I mean, where can you really go wrong? So.
I know, guys. I'm sorry. I know. Look, I was counting down for Brian. my other love. I was counting down for Ghostbusters. I even went and got the awesome popcorn bucket. I'm that big of a freaking nerd. So yeah,
Bustin'
I'm sorry,
makes you
guys.
happy.
I had other priorities. Bustin' does make me feel good.
It makes him
but
good.
I had my priorities were askew this week. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
It won't happen again.
We practice forgiveness here on Star Wars Newsnet. Like that's one of the things that we do. So we forgive you, Brian.
I'm gonna watch it tomorrow night. So
tomorrow night. You mean you're not gonna watch it at like 1 a.m. after we get done with our stream?
I'm
what?
Almost 36, man. I'm almost 40. I can't be staying up late watching Star Wars.
Oh boy. So the time has come. The moment has arrived. The Acolyte trailer that we've been clamoring for finally dropped.
Woo!
We have action figures to go with this. We got new characters. We have a red blade showing up. We are seeing Carrie-Anne Moss as a Star Wars character for the first time. We had so much to unpack in this trailer. But all I'm going to ask you guys first, I want to know in one sentence, just one sentence, how would you sum up, and we can dive into it a little more, but in one sentence, sum up your thoughts both on the trailer and your excitement level for the show in one sentence. I will go with Nate first because Nate does a lot of writing, so he should be able to just whip up a sentence for me, like, just out of nowhere. Working in news as well, Nate. You should be able to just kind of give me something. I'm going to stall here for another 5 or 6 seconds to give you a chance.
I'm not going to interrupt you, man. I think the Acolyte will be the show of the year, and this trailer kind of cemented that because it clearly shows that this will be something that we haven't seen before in Star Wars, no matter if you think that's a good or a bad thing. And so, yeah, I think this will be the best show of the year. That's not saying much because there isn't a whole lot coming out this year, but
best show of the year. So you said show of the year first before then you said best, and I was wondering if you meant show of the year too, as in like there's going to be the most discourse around like this show as well.
I mean,
like in terms of
I don't know. It's already the most viewed Star Wars trailer of all time.
Igniting.
So yeah, I mean, I as the book guy, sadly, I didn't love the trailer. I didn't love it. it didn't wow me like I thought it would. I wanted it to. It's a good trailer, but I don't know. I expected a little bit more.
Speaking to that a little bit, because you mentioned as a book guy, but tie in the feeling as someone who loves the High Republic books into maybe an underwhelming feeling of the trailer, because I don't disagree with you in that as someone who's been deep into the High Republic, like it didn't necessarily feel High Republic enough in the trailer. But I just speak into that just for a second, and then we'll get Brian his sentence here.
I'm watching this trailer, and I could see there's High Republic stuff. There's High Republic robes. There's High Republic Jedis and all this stuff. But I don't know. It's just it didn't feel different enough. It felt like we were right back in the prequels, not in the High Republic.
Right.
If that makes any sense. And I know that and I know the Acolyte's in kind of that weird place. It's literally halfway between the High Republic era and the prequels. So there's going to be a little bit of both, but I don't know, like the marketing behind the show has repeatedly said High Republic. I didn't really feel it like I wanted to in that regard, but that doesn't really matter at the same time, because I don't know. I can tell there's enough. I don't know. My feelings are very complicated on this.
Well, we can flesh that out, because I think what you're trying to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that it felt like, for especially the general audience, even there wasn't a clear distinction that this is separate from what we have already seen. It felt like an extension of an era, like the prequel era that we've already seen. And even looked, I liked how we did jump to different planets and sceneries, and it looks like we're going to be going all over the place, which is exciting. But it does feel like, okay, this is straight out of the prequel era. There wasn't enough in there that that screamed out, this is super different, outside of all the orange lightsabers at the end.
They had the text in the trailer, and it's good text, but all they had to do to make to get your brain thinking a bit differently was just say, or something like, before the Skywalker saga, or
like 100 years before the Phantom Menace,
or something, and then immediately something clicks in your head and it transports you somewhere else.
And that would deliver.
And I think that would have fixed a lot of the problems I have, because it's like I can't differentiate it enough from what I had. I don't know. It's very.
It would get rid of some confusion. It would get rid of some confusion for people, I think, too, about
I can't wait. Show up. Like I'm looking at this fight scene right now, and it looks awesome. I think once we get into the show, I think it's going to surprise a lot of people, and it's going to be exactly what we want it to be. This darker, more gritty type of crime mystery thriller, and all these things that they've been teasing. And I think that it'll be done really well, because people behind the scenes have done really nothing but good things. So like I can't wait for the show. And this trailer has everything I wanted to see, but it was missing that. But it was missing that something extra to kind of really sell it as far as what this is.
Okay, that's fair. I kind of get. I'm not all the way with you on that spectrum, but I am like, I understand where you're coming from, though. Brian, what about you when you saw this trailer?
No, I get where Nate's coming from. I get where I hear you. It does kind of feel a little darker than what we've kind of gotten in the High Republic so far, but at the same time, we're transitioning into that prequel area period, and in the High Republic, in the comics and everything, all the Jedi are wearing the Republic logo on their robes, and it's got that flashy gold, and even Yoda's got the High Republic logo on his robes, and you don't see any of that in the in the prequels, and there's obviously a shift somewhere in the Jedi and in the Republic even, and in the way everything's done somewhere between the High Republic and where we're at in the prequels, and so I think we're getting closer and closer to that, where you kind of see that transition out a little bit, It's I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's like when you look at stuff that takes place between the prequels and the originals now, it all kind of has a little bit more of that classic feel. It kind of does that transition from how clean and cut everything was in the prequels to how blocky and just square white buttons on.
Yeah, it's weird
everything
because
that
we
does that.
haven't played in this
Yeah.
area before, and so it's gonna take some adjusting and getting
It will,
used to.
yeah.
So
I just see it as transitional, really, especially since this is towards the end of the High Republic and we're getting ready to go into that prequel era. I see where you're coming from. It didn't really bother me that much. Still seeing the yellow lightsabers and kind of the golden Jedi robes.
oh yeah, there's enough there that's High Republic,
you
but
make it
I don't know. It
feel like
just
it, but-
didn't like stand out.
Right.
It didn't like jump out and the
Right.
way I wanted to, and it didn't really announce itself as this
High
is what I
Republic,
am. This is what I am. Love me, hate me, accept it. It was
Right.
just kind of just there. It was just your average Star Wars trailer.
And I agree with
in
you.
a
I
way.
think there should have been something that said, 100 years before the rise, before, the fall of the Jedi, and
Just so-
instead of they should have said
Just
something
so
like
my
that to help
mom
place
knows.
it.
She's a big
Right,
Star Wars
right.
fan. Now I have to explain to her what all this is, and my
Yeah.
camera keeps dipping in and out of focus. It's driving me insane.
No, it's not. That's just what you look like. It's fine.
Yeah, my thoughts are so scatterbrained that my camera is just agreeing with what I'm saying. So
But no, I see where you're coming from. I do think they should put something out, saying this is when it takes place, so that the general,
all the
not
interviews
us
have.
sweaties know, but yeah, and
but like
you
my
know.
mom and my aunt and my family members who are big Star Wars fans aren't reading that stuff. They watch the
Mhm.
trailers. So if the trailers aren't selling what this is,
right,
they're not going to watch.
right.
Well, I think Brian, you paint a good picture here of, and Nate too, for the one need that this thing needed was telling you, screaming out, this is what this show is, and it doesn't
Yeah.
quite do that. And I think that's not going to be too big of an issue because they
No.
have 3 months here. They're going to
That's
get
a
something
teaser
out.
trailer. It's not going to
gonna
give you
come out.
anything.
And so we're going to get a lot more
Oh,
as it gets on. But I will say something interesting that you guys said was, they should have put something out like, this is what this is, like, love me or hate me. Well, people found a way to hate.
Okay,
Let
here
me
we
tell
go.
you. So here we go. And
The sweaties
I've been-
who do know found a way to hate. So-
I've been revving up for this like all week, like for the last couple of days, like revving up for this. Two things. One, I have seen. No, I'm going to start over. I am calling for all Star Wars fans, please, like, shut up about a show and telling me that Disney is breaking canon on something or they're ruining the lore before you've seen an actual episode
lore
of a
that
show.
doesn't exist, mind
Like,
you.
It hasn't even happened, and some of this, like Nate's saying, some of this lore and this canon that you're talking about is straight from Legends or straight from this expanded universe, something that has been somewhat even manufactured by fans in order to create these storylines. It's not actual, like, hard, in place canon. So we can stop with the whole, how could the Sith, if the Jedi knew about the Sith, then that kind of ruins the whole point of the prequels nonsense. When one, the Jedi have been covering stuff up for hundreds of years. We're seeing that in the High Republic. We're seeing that in the prequel era when Mace Windu and Yoda are like, hey, we can't tell the Senate about the fact that we can't use the Force very much anymore because that's not good for them to hear. They're, like Brian mentioned when we were talking earlier, they are sitting, their temple is sitting on an old Sith temple. Like they're literally sitting on burying the past as they are. And so I'm so sick of these fans that are just sitting out there and they're like talking about Disney breaking canon and lore just because we haven't even seen a
there's a red
show
lightsaber
yet.
in the
Like just
trailer.
because there's a
Yeah.
red lightsaber, God forbid that we actually give the creatives behind the show a chance to
The benefit of
guess
a doubt.
what?
Yeah.
Share their story before we actually start quoting. It is asinine behavior. It is ridiculous. I can't believe that we have to like have these people try to ratio the YouTube likes and dislikes.
Well, that had
online.
nothing to do
And then-
with the
And then the
lightsaber
second thing,
That was a whole
right?
other
And then the
piece
second
of
thing,
shit, people that were not.
Yes. The second thing is I'm so tired of, it's ridiculous, the whole Disney gone woke, like all of this nonsense that I know we don't want to spend too much time into, but it needs to be said is that we have no idea what's going on in the stories. So whatever your beliefs on certain things are aside, all that feels like is just this kind of bigotry, hatred nonsense because you have maybe like some people of like Asian descent that are leads. You have a black lead in this as well. And if you're getting these quote unquote woke vibes from this show just because characters may look different than other characters we've had in Star Wars before, you just got to check yourself and honestly like, get yourself out of the fandom, because like Star Wars is about diversity. It's about bringing people together. It's about hope, and it's not about what it's become in some of the darker places of the internet. And it's sad that creatives, because I forget the name of the actress right now who played Reva in Obi-Wan, who had to deal with some of this when it came out. And it just sucks that like Amanda Stenberg, they're probably going to have to deal with this same crap that's already happening. Or some of these Asian actors are going to have to deal with the same crap that's already happening just because a trailer got released for a brand new show. Instead of getting excited about it and nitpicking, you know, some of the finer points of the trailer, like how did those shots look? We're over here having to address this nonsense. And so it's just wild to me what people are willing to sink themselves to on the internet over a show that we haven't even seen yet, and over characters that they haven't even given a chance to fall in love with, because it's just mind blowing to me. And I'm done on that. I just had to get it out of my system, and I hope that, you know, every day, one of the things I hope for is that the Star Wars fan base can prove to the world that we're actually not the worst. And sometimes we literally prove ourselves to be the worst. And it's like you have this show that's brand new in a brand new era with a really, if you dive into this cast, it's a really cool like cast. Like we are blessed to have the cast that we have. And of course, after a little trailer, we're having to deal with this nonsense. Anyway, thank you. I will get off my soapbox now. And unless you guys have anything to add, we can get into some of the stuff for
let the hate flow.
It was between, I didn't like address, I try not to address that stuff on social media. I more of kind of argued with some people about like some of the canon continuity nonsense.
There is a discussion to be had there, and some of that stuff is being done.
I can sum it up in 2 words: no survivors. I can just sum it up right there. For everybody who sees that red lightsaber ain't making it out of the series.
There's a number of things they can do to easily, and people are freaking out over nothing about some of this stuff. I won't give any credence to the like-dislike ratio on the YouTube or some of the bigots or anything. But there is a discussion about the canon. I will give that.
And I'm fine having it. It's just it drives me crazy when they're like saying they've ruined the continuity and they're throwing a Ki-Adi-Mundi line. Like this guy had any clue what was going on at that time.
Well, there's already been red lightsabers in the High Republic. If you've read Escape from Valo, I mean, they had a little thing, you know, that they were attaching.
Fucking Aslan Rel played with the dark side.
Yeah.
So
Kylo
Ren's not a Sith. He has a red lightsaber. There's other examples.
Yeah, no, it's so
people,
it's just a color. It's fine. It's gonna be okay.
It could be, and who knows? It could be a bounty. It could be a force-sensitive bounty hunter that just found that lightsaber on the side of the road and picked it up one day or something. I don't know. Or it could be as simple as, hey, I had this thought earlier that it could be like a master and their apprentice fell to the dark side or whatever. They bled their crystal. And like you mentioned, Tyler, that master wants to cover it up. It could be as simple as that too. With the Acolyte, we don't necessarily have. So we've talked on this show about the Bad Batch and the idea of everyone dying and how iffy that can be for an animated show. The Acolyte does not have those restrictions. They can do whatever they want. They can roll whatever they wanted. So, I mean, they can do whatever they want. I mean, they've already established with that poster, this is going to be a much darker and grittier show. So,
Darth Maul had a 5-issue run, right, in the comics. And even in the comics, he was hunting Jedi. And so he was coming face to face with Jedi Padawan
for a while.
For practice, for training. They never survived. Like you know how many Jedi came face to face with a Sith before the Jedi
and that
even knew
the
about
Phantom
him?
Menace, where this whole discussion started, they didn't believe that Maul was back as a Sith. So it's like,
Like Qui-Gon standing, I fought this guy yesterday.
Yeah,
And
they're like, nah, but
we're supposed to believe that the
Jedi
Sith
Council that doesn't care.
Yeah,
like the Sith have receded, they're in hiding, so to speak. But you're supposed to like make me think that for 1,000 years, the people who are hell-bent on destroying the Jedi, whose whole mantra is seeking power and eliminating those who have it, are just going to sit back and not engage the Jedi directly for 1,000, like 10,000 years. Like get over it. Like that's ridiculous to me.
How, like they announced years ago we were getting a show about a Sith Acolyte, and how are you supposed to have a Sith Acolyte show
without
have zero contact with the Jedi? Like there's no, and everybody got excited for it back then
until Tuesday.
Yeah. Everybody was excited. And they're like, wait
what
a
did you
second.
expect to be in the show focused on Darksiders? Well, what do you expect?
It's not just going to be two Siths sitting in a room together, looking into a bowl with images coming out of it, going into the world between worlds, trying to figure out how to.
Just Darth Plagueis. The show is Darth Plagueis just writing out his plan. The show is like Darth Plagueis just writing.
It starts with him writing his memoirs, like The Hobbit.
The Plagueis pages. Here are the Plagueis pages. And so, well, it's fascinating. And if anything, the show will even highlight more, like the fall of the Jedi. It will make it even more tragic, knowing that the Jedi have been trying to convince themselves for years that the Sith aren't back, or they've been hiding it, for all of this time. Like it will make it even more tragic, just like the High Republic, everything going on there with different things that we're seeing from the Jedi. It builds to what is the great fall of the Jedi, and it's really powerful in a way. And this show has a chance to do that, and I hope that fans will give the show its fair chance. But what say you guys? We briefly talk about some of the characters that could that are going to be popping up, and maybe talk about who we think might be holding that red lightsaber at the end of the Acolyte. Which the end of that trailer was really cool, because I'm sure you guys are aware that's the most quick mass lightsaber igniting scene that we've had since Attack of the Clones, like in that sequence. So it was pretty cool to just see like 8 lightsabers light up at once. But let's start with this right here. This is the trailer that dropped, the poster that dropped. What do we think about like the poster? It's subtle. How do we feel about the poster?
It's a
Brian?
poster. It's a poster.
Yeah. It's a poster.
It gives literally nothing away.
The other one's better.
Nothing. Yeah.
The other one's better.
I like both.
It's a cool poster, but it reminds me of Dune right now.
Right.
They just said, they just saw Dune, and it's like, well, let's make a poster based on that. So
I'm just glad they didn't do the floating heads poster with like a bunch of the characters.
Yeah. Oh, it's coming. It's coming.
It'll happen.
Just wait.
But right now, I'm glad we don't have that.
May 4th of the second trailer. It's coming.
So let's talk about. I think probably the big name everyone like really wants to talk about too is Carrie-Anne Moss. Like I'll say Carrie-Anne Moss being like a Jedi. Sorry, Brian. Sorry, you had that. Good. So her name is, I believe, and correct you if I'm wrong, anyone. We're just learning all of these character names. We have Master Indara, they really gave us a lot to go on here. She's a Jedi Master of great physical and mental skill, like basically probably every Jedi Master, ever. So I will say there were some people, I don't remember the name of the Twitter account that did this, but they said that her lightsaber from like the action figure that you see looks very similar to the lightsaber in the poster that's ignited. I'm not giving any credence to that whatsoever, but a lot of people were wondering, could Carrie-Anne Moss, could Master Indara end up being a Jedi that falls away from the Order and turns into something else? Obviously, Carrie-Anne Moss is, amazing and a legend, and I'm curious to see her in the Star Wars. So what were your initial impressions of her from the trailer?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but is she the only character whose Jedi robes are more reminiscent of the prequels? Because I don't really remember her in like the gold robes and whatnot and like all that stuff.
From what
I saw, she had some. It looked like she had.
She
some
did. She did.
Yeah.
Because her robes reminded me much more of the prequel vibes than the others. That means nothing, because I think she is biting it very early on. So that means nothing.
You think she's gonna bite it pretty quick? I mean, she's a fairly big name to be dropping into a Star Wars series.
Maybe.
Just to be...
I don't know. I don't know.
There's a chance she could
I'm
be
not
that.
saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong at all.
I mean,
Vegas
she's far
odds
from
are
the
saying
first.
she's on the Vegas
She's
odds
far
for being
from
the
the
person
first
holding
big
the
name
lightsaber.
they've brought in to only have a minor role.
Right.
She also wasn't one of the first people cast.
That's true too.
So they brought, and that means nothing at the grand scheme of things when they bring people on, when they announce cast. For all that stuff, it's very deliberately plotted out when they do that stuff. But no, I think, I'm excited to see Carrie Ann Moss in this show. I think, and in the trailer, she has some awesome moments in that fight scene, and I can't wait to see her as a Jedi. I can't wait. And to answer your question, will she fall? I say probably not. I think her and what's Squid Games? On that actor's name, Lee Jung Jae or something like that. I think they're going to be kind of our stalwart Jedi in this show that are kind of leading us through the murky waters of this show, and whatever happens to them will kind of lead to where everything goes in the show.
Do you think that Master Andara could become the villain of this show? Could she become like the red saber wielder?
It's very possible.
We've seen Carrie Ann Moss. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen like Memento or something, but Carrie Ann Moss can play a nasty character. She could play a nasty.
Well, if she's revealed to be the villain, why is she fighting Amanda Stenberg's character?
Well, because I think Amanda Stenberg being the main like villain or whatever, I think that's a smokescreen. I don't think they're gonna.
She's more the protagonist on that side. She's the more. She's
like, And so I think if they're fighting each other, then if Master Andara ends up falling from the Jedi, or she's in hiding or something amongst the Jedi, like I mean, she has to keep her cover, like she does whatever, and then it could be that's when she could reveal herself.
I mean, their fight is in kind of like a rundown shack / bar type thing, so it's not really out in the open. It's kind of more
right.
So I don't know.
She could bite it right out during that fight.
I don't know. I doubt it. I doubt it.
They even have an action figure coming out for would they do an action figure?
That'd be hilarious. All this hype, and she eats it in the first 15 minutes of the show because that fight is very early on. It kind of has to be, I would think, to kind of establish. That's probably gonna be the first fight scene of the show.
How much of the show do you think we saw in this teaser? Do you think most of what we saw in this is
literally
episode,
nothing? Literally nothing.
Yeah, literally nothing.
I just mean
we're gonna watch the first
I just mean how
3
much
episodes and go, well, that's everything in the trailers. That's it.
That's also part of the reason why I'm so kind of underwhelmed by the trailer in a sense, because it's a teaser. They didn't show us jack shit. So,
which I'm fine with. I'm fine with that. I'm fine.
I'm fine too. I love
the vibes.
That.
The Mountain Dew vibes are flying tonight. Nate's
I wanted more. I wanted that extra punch. There was
more.
I don't know, man. I wanted it all.
It's wild. It's wild, man.
He wanted to see how the show ends, like in the trailer.
We need to establish a few things, though, because I've seen too much online when it comes to the timeline and the eras for Star Wars. I saw some people saying it's young Palpatine. We can assure people it's not Palpatine. There's no chance he's not even alive.
In the timeline book, I was watching Star Wars Explained and his video on this earlier. Palpatine's not even alive.
He's not alive. That's what I'm saying. He's not alive.
Plagueis is maybe
he's young. And then
teenager, a young adult.
I think it's going to be. I think the person on that is either going to be. It's going to be a brand new human character. I don't think it's going to be an alien or anything like that. It'll be a human, and I think it's going to end up being one of the Jedi that's going to make their way in the show, or it's going to be maybe a Manny Jacinto's character who's this hidden person in the background that ends up being something a little bit more. I don't think we're going to get any references, any of these Sith people we're going to see, at least in season 1. I don't think it's going to be anything with characters that have been pre-established in lore or anything like that. I think they want to do their own thing here.
I don't know
if that's a Biff, if that's a Biff holding the lightsaber, that's a dead giveaway. that it's Darth Tenebris or whatever.
Right.
And I don't think they want to
I don't think they'll be big
themselves to
characters.
any story that's already been told.
I don't think. I think if Plagueis or Tenebris or someone else is in the show, they'll be towards the end of the season and leading into season 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do agree on that, but I think I hate the discussion on what the show needs to do.
Yeah.
But there's gotta be something along those lines because they've already established that there's Legends material in this show. There's Easter eggs and whatnot for everyone. So I feel like there's going to be something with those guys.
It's gonna be
I don't know what.
It's gonna be someone like a different. The person one looks a little bit different than the average audience, maybe in Star Wars, and they're gonna get so upset that a Sith might look a little bit different, and then they're gonna cry about it online.
That's gonna be a whole discussion.
Watching every
a whole discussion when Plagueis shows up on screen and his face isn't long enough. People are gonna lose their fucking minds.
He doesn't have that freckle like right there. Like
people are gonna lose their minds.
Why does he look so weird?
Have you guys watched Seinfeld ever? Like ever?
Yeah,
can I do a brief demonstration? So there's an episode of Seinfeld where basically George is having to practice abstinence because of like his girlfriend is like mono or something. So and it's like so like sometimes I'm going to use an illustration. This is like Star Wars fans' brains, like right here. And this like right here. This is the portion a lot of Star Wars fans' brains use for constructive criticism of the series and, healthy discourse online. Now, granted, Star Wars fans, we've gotten a lot from this little piece of our brain that we have been using. But imagine, just for a moment, what we might be capable of if we allowed the other side of our brain that hasn't been used to expand into the unknown regions. Like, just imagine what could take place. So I have a quick question. This is like a really like niche like book thing real quick, but I want to talk about this character as well. Yord. I know we don't have a picture of Yord, but he was like the Padmo, like kind of like the hair, like slicked back, and he had the yellow lightsaber, the chiseled jawline, and everything. It describes Yord as being a Jedi that's let me see, like. It's a Jedi that is an overachiever and a rule follower. He needs to be a by-the-book Jedi, and that can cloud his mind. And Reath Silas, right? So basically, we're getting Reath Silas right now, and I just had to make that quick connection. Peter Griffin, smart George. Yes, it's so fun, George, because of genius, because he's no longer obsessing over his sexual desires. Anyway, moving on. This show is unhinged tonight. We're all over the place.
That's what happens when you start to get late. One of us is like chugging caffeine, and like the other one, like it's like it's almost midnight where you're at. It's going on 11 here. Right. I've been up all it's you start to get slap happy and
right.
Throw another one back, man.
What do we think of our Wookiee Jedi?
I just ran out. I did another one.
What do we think of Kelnaka? What do we think of Kelnaka, the Wookiee Jedi that is described as being a loner who lives a solitary life?
I wish he was Buryaga.
There's no reason they couldn't have used Buryaga unless there's something we don't know later.
Right,
on.
Three dies.
So, but
they probably don't want to use
they've
too
already
many
characters. Killed him once. So I wish when they said there was going to be a Wookiee Jedi, I got excited because Jedi live or the Wookiees live 300 years. So
he could be however old and it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
But alas,
I would have loved to see
Jedi nothing. Buryaga could still very much be in the show.
He could. Very well.
The problem is Leslie Headland said that Vernestra is the only book character in season 1.
I know.
So,
but to see Buryaga would have.
Do I believe her? I don't know, but
I don't know if I believe her. She may be off. I will say it wouldn't surprise me if we see him in season 2. Like if he, but then again, Burry might die in like 3 months.
And that's the thing.
The Force comes out.
That's the thing. You can't do too much with the books in the Acolyte because it gives away the books.
Right.
Season 2, when that comes, won't have that problem. So.
Right. I do want to know where how they kind of describe how he is a loner? Like, do they give like some background to why the Wookiees become a loner? Because for what we know of Wookiees, they are really communal creatures that want to be in their
Pack
or their
animals.
tribe. Like they want to be in their tribe together. And he's decided to go off, on his own. I would be curious to see like why he has done that. And last thing, let's talk about May for a minute, played by Amanda Stenberg. What do we make of May's character? So, well, like Nate, you're probably more in the know on this, and so correct me if I'm wrong. Is it confirmed? Is she like a former Padawan of Master Soul? Was that an old thing that got changed, and now she's just like it? Because it says like she's a formidable like warrior from Master Soul's past, but it doesn't say that like she's a former Padawan or anything in the latest synopsis. But I know they've changed a few things. But she clearly has history with Master Soul. And for those of you who don't remember, Master Soul is this guy from the chamber here, the Senate chamber, the Jedi Council chamber training room here. And so him and May have history.
Is that the same training room that we saw Obi-Wan and Anakin training in the Obi-Wan series, the flashback scene? I think it is.
It might be. Coruscant has so many tall buildings.
They probably have so many rooms like that.
There's so many rooms. Yeah, I'd have to go back and look.
Because, like, Yoda's off teaching younglings somewhere else too, so they probably have a lot of those types of meditation chamber rooms.
That's another thing. Do you think Yoda's going to pop up in this series?
Oh God, yes.
Oh yeah,
he'll be. 100%.
Oh God, yes.
100%. Yeah,
there's a chance in hell Yoda's not in this show.
Okay.
He will be he will be in another teaser before the show comes out. Yeah. Like he will. 100%. He will be.
Yeah.
I think that's how you get casuals in too.
Yaddle. I think Yaddle as well. I think we see Yaddle as well.
A distinctly younger Yoda, even though it's 100 years, so it's not that different.
I think we'll see a Yoda. I think we'll see a Yaddle.
She's already popped up in.
I don't know about Yaddle for sure, but for sure Yoda.
But so what about? But like real quick, what are we expecting from May? Because I want to talk. We got to talk about May. We got to talk about the mother Anicia, the leader of a coven of witches. We're going to talk about witches for a minute, and then of course we got to talk about my girl Vernestra Rowe before we get out of here, like my favorite High Republic character, of course. So please tell me right now, like May, real quick thoughts on May, Nate.
I really don't have any because the synopsis doesn't give a whole lot. She's a very mysterious character. I like her look. It's not what I expected. And this kind of like masked figure and like just this kind of like assassin you guys know I believe it was Death Stick from the current comic runs. This kind of like Crimson Dawn and like just this deadly warrior that in this show is going to be force sensitive, and I'm curious to see how they play with that. And I'm very excited to see her get into this role and see where her character goes, because like she is supposedly our window into the dark side of this show. So she's one of our protagonists on that side, and that's a perspective we've never really seen. So yeah, I'm excited, but yeah, I really don't have a whole lot of thoughts because
that's some of the beauty of the trailer right now is we don't really know anything. Yeah. We're just speculating, and we're just
the trailer really didn't give us much of anything, and that's awesome for a teaser. But yeah, I don't know.
Ryan, what do you think of the choreography involving May early on?
Same. As far as she's concerned, she is very much an enigma at this point. But yeah, the fighting in it looks awesome. It very much is like the Death Stick stuff in the comics that I can imagine what it would look like in the comics. I think it looks awesome. To be completely
Can we have
honest.
an episode where we do the funny episode of just like who it will be, who the Sith Lord could be, but like wrong answers only, like the mod guy from Tatooine. It's
he was one of the pod racers.
The Jedi are trying to pay for something. The Jedi are trying to pay for something using Republic credits, and then Wano just comes in, red lightsaber. Republic credits will do you no good out here. And he just comes in.
I'm just doing a quick Google.
One of the Tusken Raiders shooting at the pod racers.
They want a hunger.
Oh my god! Tuna.
I'm just doing a quick Google here. I'm just theorizing. I'm fantasizing about where the show could go. Because we're all wondering
Sith Lords, and Nate's over there trying to do the real work for us.
Yeah, the lore side of things, because I just did a Google. There's a comment earlier about Darth Tenebris and Plagueis and some of these guys,
Right.
and Plagueis we're unsure of because
Right.
we're not really sure because we don't know much about him. Tenebris is definitely around, and I did a Google about Tenebris's master, and we really don't know much about that. I didn't even get a name about Tenebris's master.
Right. It gets broken up. It gets broken up a little bit.
Yeah,
Hey,
so
you're a
all
High
kinds of
Republic guy.
things.
We're all High Republic people here. Mother Anicia, I saw some stuff going around on Twitter with her open hand stuff, and she does give off.
It's definitely interesting. It's
She
definitely
gives
interesting.
off Path of Open Hand Mother vibes. Like, it's very interesting.
And her
how that
dialogue
parallel
is
goes.
kind of giving those vibes as well. I mean,
It's not about it's about power and
and those who can wield it,
and are allowed to use it.
Those are basically the exact things that the mother from the books would say. The problem is the mother is dead. So
she'd been dead for what, 200 years at this point?
Yeah, dead, big dead.
But could,
almost 300 years, almost 300 years.
It's obviously not her. But could this be? And this is really deep speculation. Could this be some sort of sect or something that is derived from the path in some way?
The path kind of turned into the Nihil, though.
Right.
Right.
So the Nihil would have had to splinter off and kind of re-embrace the methodologies of the path of the open hand in order to make this happen, which is very possible. It's very possible.
We don't really know the ending of the Nihil yet.
Not at all. And I mean, it makes sense because, like in the books, I mean, Markion Rowe doesn't have a stronghold anymore on reality. He's getting more crazier by the day. So yes, anything's possible with that. I think that would be a awesome way to tie into the books and to kind of give us that element of things. So I think that'd be awesome. And I think it's very possible. I think it's very possible because that seemed very deliberate to include her. So
Brian?
No, I completely agree.
You're on?
Yeah, I think this is, like you said, we don't know how the Nile end or, what happens to the Rose. And
which is so maddening right now.
It's crazy right now because we have all the pieces of the puzzle except the one we need.
We won't know we won't know until next June 2025.
Yeah,
that's why it's frustrating that the Acolyte won't have more book stuff, so we can have more pieces to the book puzzle.
But at the same time, I don't want to have the pieces.
I don't either. I don't either. But it's like
this show happens far enough removed from the High Republic novels that we have so far. It can be its own thing. I don't think it needs to have all these ties. I think it needs to have some connective tissue so that it's payoff for us that read the books. Right. But I don't think it needs to be one of those things where you have to go read 3 phases of novels to understand what's going on in this show.
It was more about character inclusion for me. Like when Vernestra, they said she was going to be in it.
Yes, so many that could.
I was so excited when Vern got announced that she was going to be in the show. And we're going to talk about her in a moment. But I was also kind of like when I was reading Defy the Storm recently and she would get into a tough spot, it took me out of like, oh, I don't have to even worry about her making out of this because I know she's going to be in the Acolyte here in a few weeks, which takes place so much further down the line. So I would rather them hold off on some of those characters like Buryaga, like even because we've already had a near Buryaga death once. Like, I don't think they'll do that again. Like this time, I think he'll live. So it could be very possible he shows up. But Vernestra Rowe did show up in the Acolyte trailer, which, I was so excited to see. This is all I wanted.
Yeah,
like the little like
so
the like 1.5 second clip of her just using the Force to open that door. That I watched that on loop so many times. My brain is like fried right now.
So she comes back to the Order at some point.
So you haven't read Defy the Storm yet?
I have not read Defy the Storm yet. Okay. I'll just wait. We'll talk again next week.
So I'm assuming she goes back to the Order and Defy the Storm. Right? I'm assuming.
In a way.
Yeah, in a way.
Essentially.
Interesting.
In a roundabout way.
I haven't read it either. I'm behind on that front too. So
I just started Eye of Darkness. So as soon as I finish it, I'm going into Defy the Storm and I'll be caught up. So
perfect. So Vernestra, she's obviously a very revered, powerful Jedi at this point. She has been around for a long time. She's probably one of the most powerful Jedi in the Order. And
it's about 100-year difference, man.
Yeah, so she
about
would be
100-year
like in
difference.
65-ish. She'd be like 60, 65-ish in this. Because she was
she'd be older than that.
Yeah, she would be because she was knighted at 15. and that was 150 years before Phantom Menace, and then this is 100 years, so this is 50 years later. She'd be in her 60s.
No, Light of the Jedi. Light of the
Phase
Jedi is
one,
200.
Phase 1's 200.
Is it 200?
There's a year that passes between in Phase 1.
I thought it was 150.
And
she's in her hundreds here.
Okay.
And
so right now we're about
but I don't know how long
I
Muriel lives, and they can change that, here or there. Right. They'll change that up. It's not that big a deal. But I'm curious, do you obviously she's not going to be at the forefront of this show. Like it's not going to be a Vernestra show. But I am curious, do you guys think we will see the light whip in action?
I hope so too.
I hope so. I
saw some discourse about that on people freaking out about a light whip.
I love that about her.
That it's like, well, Disney's doing whatever they want with lightsabers, even though the light whip's been in Legends.
It was in Clone Wars.
I know.
George Lucas put it in Clone Wars.
I know. It's like,
but it's
people
okay
are freaking out
for him
about
to do it. Yeah.
People freak about anything.
The Zygerians freaking had him. Like it's
not that it'd be crazy if people were
the Geo discourse come back up, and then people are just replying.
I saw the horny rock thing. Yeah, that was funny. I was laughing.
And then people spam replying with the crying mountain that was in Legends, and no one wants to talk about that.
Why is it okay for Marvel and Lord of the Rings to have talking trees, but Star Wars can't have talking rocks?
I know, right?
It's like how's that even fair?
Well, the Zygerian ones, though,
are
more like the Zygerian ones.
Geode's the most inessential character in the High Republic, but people die on the hill and think he's the main character, and it's frustrating.
I can just picture him just like I can just picture them doing like a live action version of him where they're like the camera's on somebody and they're talking, and then it cuts to somebody else, and when it cuts back to him, Geode's just standing behind him. You never see him move, but he's always there.
Yep.
I love it so much.
He just pops up out of nowhere.
I love it.
I
love it.
Manslayer said, "I'm skeptical, to be honest, but open to it. I assume it'll be different to Zygerian ones. So the Zygerian ones, they're not like real. They're not like real light whips because they're like an electro that wraps you. Vernestra's light whip, it doesn't change what a Jedi is. Or what a lightsaber is. It will just slice through things. So I think it's really cool in the books when she shifts it from lightsaber to light whip. It would just be it'd be awesome if we got a moment where she's like surrounded by some people or something, and she just brings it out and whips it around.
That'd be an amazing moment.
You don't have to have her that much.
She does because she was.
Who knows? We don't know what could happen in the books. But
she was afraid to tell Stellan, her master, about that.
Yep.
If I remember, did she ever tell him? I don't even remember.
He was like the only one. She didn't tell the Order about it. She didn't tell the Order about it. Like she told Stellan was like the only one
more
that
of an aggressive kind of
thing. From like the ancient days of the Jedi versus the Sith and everything. Right. It was like so. I am really excited for what. The blade
of Bradata. Yeah.
The problem is he is old as dirt at the moment. So.
He's still going to continue to be older than
he'd be walking around like Terra
500 years old in the Acolyte. He'd be like
him and Terra Sinube are walking around with their walking sticks.
That's right.
Like, I mean, if Terra Sinube can live until the Clone Wars, Puerto Rico could too.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
We talk about Terra Sinube surviving the Clone Wars and Order 66 to where the Inquisitors had to like hunt him down. We talk
slow and steady wins the race.
Like he just like everyone's running around like in the temple, and he's just like, maybe if I just kind of limp out of here, like they'll just that guy's nothing. He just chilling. And then obviously
he's hiding in the depths of Coruscant, I guess. I don't know.
He probably slept through the whole thing. He was so tired. He
probably wasn't even dead in Obi-Wan. He was probably
he forgot to file change of address form with the post office, so no one knew where he lived.
They thought he was dead. The clones thought he was dead when he was just laying there taking a nap. Like, oh, well, we got him, I guess. And then he woke up like hours later, and he's just walking around.
Yeah,
I'm sticking with he forgot to tell people where he lived, so he's just sleeping in a bed, and no one could find him.
So anyway, I would say that safely wraps us up this evening.
Love it.
Before you can join us here on Star Wars Newsnet every Thursday night. We're always live. I'll be here every Thursday night. Usually Brian is here every Thursday night, and Nate pops in from time to time as he has like today. Instead of lurking into the chat today. So we have every Thursday night, join us. Brian and I did the Star Wars Newsnet timeline show that drops Monday nights on YouTube and on your, Spotify or Apple, wherever you listen to your podcasts. We're going through every single canon Star Wars story out there. There's a bunch of them. Just for those of you who aren't like degenerates like Brian and I and consume all of this, we're doing it for you so you don't have to. So right now we're on year 382 BBY, phase 2 of the High Republic. And we just join us there. We just talk about different Star Wars stories and characters you may not be familiar with. This was a big week in Star Wars comics, so stay tuned to Star Wars Newsnet for all the different comic reviews that are be coming your way over the next week, along with, check out our trailer breakdown that we have for this week. Everything from the Acolyte, all these releases that happened this week, everything is funneled through Star Wars Newsnet. We get, we got a lot of stuff for you. Nate, anything you want to plug real quick before we get out of here?
Yes. Before we go, I have something special for us to do real quick. It's going to take a little bit of time here, so we kind of forget. I have something I want to present you guys with some dad jokes.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
This book
Tyler,
from...
Do you know when a dad joke when a joke becomes a dad joke?
Is this going to be a dad joke?
When it becomes apparent. Yes, I love it.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. So I wanted to give a little profile to this book coming out April 2nd from Chronicle Books. And I just want to give you guys a little preview. I want to get your guys' thoughts on a few of these jokes. I want to see your reactions.
Yes.
And
all right. Let's do this.
And guys in the chat, if you're watching the chat, I want to know your thoughts as well. I want to know if these are good. I want to know if these live up to the dad joke name, because it's a big deal in households. Dads got to make their kids laugh and cringe and all this stuff. We got to have this stuff. All right. So first thing. All right.
We need like a separate, I want like a 10-minute video with Nate, and it's just him reading dad jokes on
and
YouTube.
Not laughing at all. Just
like he's reading a story.
All right. Story time with Nate, but it's dad jokes.
I can't wait for the audiobook of this.
All right. How did Luke Skywalker feel when the Emperor demonstrated the full power of the dark side?
What is it?
How?
He was shocked.
It's so bad.
So bad.
But so glorious. Father, please. Father.
All right.
Please.
All right. And
someone's gonna pick you up, Nate, and chuck you down the shaft for that one. I'm sorry. Next one.
All right. I love this dad jokes book because it doesn't just give you what you hear from the original trilogy and stuff. It has jokes from things like Mandalorian. And some books and comics. Here is one of the Mandalorian ones.
Yes.
How does the Mandalorian's friend Queel say good morning?
I have woken.
You got it.
Oh, did you really? Oh my god. That's great. That's great.
All right. Let's just go one more here. One more free one. I had a third one planned. We'll go one more free one here because I like this. I like this.
When this book comes out, I'm serious. We're doing like a 5-minute video. It's gonna be Nate doing the dad jokes.
All right.
We need a video of Nate sitting by a fireplace with like a bearskin rug and just smoking a pipe with the book and just reading them.
It's the thing. It's just going to be an over thing. This is Dad Jokes with Nate, a time of the week where you have dad jokes with Nate.
Put out a 30-second video every week.
All right, we got to move it along here. All of the Sith hide in the shadows, shrouded in mystery, unless you count Dooku.
Jesus Christ. That's a great book.
Oh my goodness. When did this come out?
April 2nd. I have one more for you guys. One more.
Okay. A bonus fourth one. Is this like a book one? This is a book one?
Kind of. It's also Galaxy Edge related. It's also Galaxy's Edge related.
I'm about to go over to the Galaxy's Edge.
And it ties back into our blue milk conversation from earlier. Why is blue milk so popular on Batuu?
Why?
It's legendary.
Oh my gosh. That was so bad.
That one hurt.
That's legendary. It's
God.
Legendary. You're telling me they made a dad joke book and they're releasing the Star Wars dad joke book?
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yes. April 2nd from Chronicle. Be sure to check this out.
I'm
if
gonna
you
buy
want
that.
some
I'm gonna buy
laughs.
that for my classroom, and I'm gonna subject my students to Star Wars
You won't
dad
do it.
jokes before they
There's
take a
some
test.
really
You
good
think I
stuff
won't do
in
it? You
here.
think I won't do it?
Dude,
I-
Vader loves dad jokes. The whole
every
don't choke on
single
your
day.
aspirations, like all of it. He loves dad jokes.
You think I won't do it? For every single day before they write their essay, I make them watch a cheesy video on YouTube from like some sort of like animated. Like one time I made them sit and watch Mario do the training course from the Super Mario movie. But then I cut the video off where he gets chomped in half, and I was like, now are we inspired to write our essays? Like, but he didn't even make it. And I was like, yeah, and we might not make it through this essay, but we're gonna try anyway. Like I will totally. You will
That's great.
totally do that. Love my students, but they sometimes have to be subjected to things in the Star Wars realm. They're not quite ready.
The trick
for.
is to traumatize your kids just enough where they don't turn out to be serial killers, but they still turn out funny. That's the trick. You got to walk that fine line.
Brian, would you have anything you would like to promote?
You guys can see me every week with these guys on live right here. You guys can catch me and Tyler on the Timeline show every week. Like we said earlier, we're going to be working on the Battle of Jeddah this week. I think it was like an hour and 10-minute episode this week is what we were doing. So
it's our longest episode.
It's the longest one ever. We talk about the Battle of Jeddah audiobook and then how the Marvel comics crossover with it and how the Star Wars Adventures comics crossover with it. And we had like 3 or 4 storylines all together that we were trying to weave into this one battle. And so that's going to be coming out on Monday night, 7:00 Central. Definitely check that out. You guys can head over to my website and check it out at starwarscanon.net. I've got an entire Legends timeline there, all in chronological order, and we've got the canon timeline all in chronological order for you as well. So definitely go check that out.
Absolutely. And check us here every Thursday night. Go to Star Wars Newsnet for everything Star Wars. You can look for Miguel's Galaxy Far, Far Away piece that's going to be coming Sunday night. I'll be having a High Republic comic that's coming out. We just had a Jango Fett comic review come out like today. And I haven't read it yet, but
read it, buy it, so they don't just limit it to 4 issues. So because it's great. We need more Jango Fett in our lives.
I'm not gonna argue against that at all. Until next week, for Light and Life signing off. This is Star Wars Newsnet Live.